If you spent any time listening to sports radio, watching post-match punditry, or scrolling through X over the last couple of seasons, you've heard the exact same line repeated like a broken record about Chelsea Football Club. They bought all this incredible young talent, but they forgot to buy experienced leaders for the dressing room. Pundits talk about experience as if it's like a deodorant spray, as if simply placing a 33-year-old veteran next to a 20-year-old in a changing room somehow transfers composure, resilience, and tactical wisdom through sheer proximity, like leadership spreads through the air they breathe. But look at the reality of what Chelsea have done recently. Following an unsuccessful spell in charge at Real Madrid, Alonso has taken over at Stamford Bridge, and he's immediately followed that up by bringing in Danny Welbeck and Jordan Henderson. In complete contrast to Chelsea's previous transfer model, two players who have won Premier League titles, European titles, and operated under the absolute highest pressure in world football at Manchester United, Arsenal, and Liverpool. The mainstream reaction has been completely predictable, with everyone saying, finally, they've brought the experience to steady the ship. If we want to praise Alonso for bringing them in, and we absolutely should, the praise shouldn't be for that lazy punditry reason. It's not about Welbeck and Henderson playing every single week, because they won't. It is about something much more shrewd. Look at what Alonso did at Bayer Leverkusen. When he took Leverkusen to an historic unbeaten domestic double in their first ever Bundesliga title, he didn't just rely on youthful genius like Florian Wirtz or Jeremy Frimpong. He deliberately brought in Granit Xhaka to act as a living, breathing, tactical and mental anchor. Alonso is bringing the exact same Leverkusen blueprint to Stamford Bridge. By bringing in Welbeck and Henderson at minimal cost, he is bringing in an absolute blueprint of professional standards. If their presence helps internalize composure and elevates the performance of the young players, it completely turbocharges Chelsea's entire business model of buying in young, developing them, and sending them on for massive profit. It is incredibly clever business. Here's my absolute hot take on this. Because of these two specific signings, and Alonso applying his Leverkusen blueprint, I genuinely think Chelsea are dark horses for the Premier League title this season. I'm Grant Wyeth, a hypnotherapist, and today on episode 5 of Sport Rewired, we're breaking down why this move is a masterstroke. We're bridging high-level tactical football analysis with cognitive behavioural hypnotherapy, deconstructing the imagined mentor technique, the science of perceptual positions, and proving why become authority you look up to in an idol isn't something you find in someone else. It's a perspective your own brain already owns. Let's get straight into the wiring.
Beyond the flash and scoreboard light, it's the engine that's burning inside. We're breaking down the walls in your head, leaving all your doubts for dead. It's time to come alive, Sport Rewired. Come on, Sport Rewired.
Chelsea has spent the last few transfer windows executing a radical squad rebuilding strategy. They spent over £1 billion targeting young talent from across the world, signing them to long-term 7- and 8-year contracts. Now, whenever results fluctuated or inconsistency slipped, the media response was instant. Commentators pointed straight at the squad list and declared, "This team has no spine. There are no leaders in that changing room to guide these young players when the pressure spikes." And inevitably, the Chelsea business model was attacked and questioned, and so on and so forth. As I mentioned, Alonso arrived at Chelsea after leaving Real Madrid. And when he did so, he immediately greenlighted the signings of Welbeck and Henderson. The pundits immediately clapped their hands and said, "Brilliant, they've realised they need experience in the dressing room." But that lazy narrative misses the entire point of why this is such an incredibly shrewd piece of business, and why it positions them as genuine title dark horses. To understand why this works, you have to look at what Alonso built during his legendary spell at Leverkusen. When Alonso arrived in Germany, Leverkusen actually had an abundance of raw and quite frightening talent. Players like Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong, and Edmund Tatsova. But whenever matches turned chaotic or high-stakes pressure mounted, that young squad lacked the emotional stability and tactical game management. Alonso did just tell them to be more mature. He went out and signed Granit Xhaka from Arsenal. Xhaka didn't transform Leverkusen because he gave loud inspirational speeches in the locker room. He may have done. He transformed them because when Leverkusen were 1-0 down in the 88th minute, Xhaka's positioning, his deliberate passing cadence, his unhurried body language provided a live physical reference point for the likes of Wirtz and Frimpong. He gave those young players an external model of composure that their nervous system could instantly mirror and adopt. The result? A historic unbeaten domestic campaign and a Bundesliga crown. Alonso is now executing this exact same psychological blueprint at Chelsea. But let's be realistic. Henderson and Welbeck, they're not going to play 90 minutes every single week. They're not going to provide that physical reference on the pitch all the time. They weren't brought in to be permanent fixtures in the starting 11. They were brought in because their daily presence in the football club acts as a massive psychological accelerator for the rest of the squad. When you look at Chelsea's existing business model, which is fundamentally about buying in raw young talents, improving them, and either building a world-class core or selling them on for premium value, anything that speeds up the maturity of those very players adds tens of millions to the Chelsea balance sheet. Think about the sheer financial and tactical math of this. If you have an incredibly gifted 22-year-old who costs £50 million, they are struggling to hold on to a lead or handle the emotional volatility of an away match when the pressure is red hot and their development stalls, their confidence drops, the market value of that player stagnates. But if bringing in characters like Welbeck or Henderson for next to nothing in transfer fees, that speeds up that young squad's psychological maturity, maybe by even 12 months. You've completely protected and elevated your assets as a business. That is precisely why Chelsea are genuine title dark horses this season. You take an incredibly explosive, talented group of young players and you hand them a living, breathing blueprint of what it takes to get over the finish line from guys that have actually lifted Premier League and European trophies. You take a raw, talent gamble and you anchor it with proven elite standards. Bringing in Welbeck and Henderson is a masterstroke for Alonso because they give him an extension of his own voice out on the training pitch and in the changing room. They set the baseline standard of how to prepare, how to recover, and how to behave when the pressure is on in a match. They show these young players how a Premier League and European winner eats, how he carries himself in the gym, and how he handles a high-pressure crisis. As a hypnotherapist, what interests me in how those young players actually absorb the impact of those players. The lazy punditry line implies that it almost happens by osmosis, just by standing near them. Like confidence is a mist you breathe in, just by sharing a changing room and environment with Jordan Henderson or Danny Welbeck. But the cognitive reality is completely different. Merely placing a veteran player in a changing room does not magically rewire a young player. A senior leader sitting in a changing room is only as useful as the younger player's cognitive ability to internalize and to adopt that leader's mental framework. If a young player doesn't know how to step into being a leader, sharing their perspective, having a legend sitting 2 pegs down from them accomplishes virtually nothing when the whistle blows to start a match. If a young midfielder is standing in the centre circle hyperventilating because he just gave the ball away, Henderson shouting from 20 yards away from him isn't going to magically lower his heart rate. The young player has to know how to capture that model of composure from Henderson and replicate it in his own head. What Alonso understood at Leverkusen with Xhaka and what he is doing now at Chelsea with Welbeck and Henderson is providing those young players with a concrete real-world model that their brains can easily mirror, copy, and internalize. They are giving them an anchor. That raises a fascinating question. How do you, or a young athlete, or a corporate leader, whoever you may be, take the composure of someone you respect, whether it's a teammate like Welbeck or a captain like Henderson, and make it a permanent part of your own brain? In cognitive behavioural hypnotherapy, we don't sit around hoping someone else's composure eventually rubs off on us. We don't leave performance to chance. We use structured, evidence-based protocols to actively train the brain to adopt elite mental perspectives on demand. One of the most effective tools we use is the Imagine Mental protocol. It's built on two core principles: perceptual positions and the as-if frame. I want you to picture three distinct vantage points from which you can view any high-pressure situation. First, there's of course the first position. This is just you inside your own body, looking through your own eyes. You feel your own heart. You hear your own self-doubt. You're trapped in your own physical tension. Your breathing is shallow, your neck muscles are tight, and your own internal dialogue is spiraling out of control. Then there's the second position. This is where you mentally step out of your own body and step directly into the mind and physical posture of someone else. You adopt their breathing, their focus, their emotional baseline. You observe the situation that you're going through with their eyes, using their psychological armor. And finally, there's the third position, and this is where you step back entirely and you look at the whole picture objectively, like an independent camera mounted on a tripod, completely detached from any emotional noise. You aren't judging, you're just looking at the cold, hard facts of the situation that you see. Now, when a young footballer gets paralyzed by perhaps imposter syndrome before a cup final or an executive freezes before a crucial board meeting, they are completely stuck in the first position I just described. They're utterly overwhelmed by their own fight or flight response. They cannot see the game. They cannot see the strategic landscape. All they can see and experience is their own fear. Let me paint a picture of exactly how an imagined mental session plays out in the clinical environment when we're working with an athlete struggling with performance anxiety. First, we guide the client into a state of focused hypnotic absorption. We calm down their sympathetic nervous system using slow, rhythmic, diaphragmatic breathing and progressive muscle relaxation, creating a quiet, steady, physiological baseline. We get them out of that hyper-alert threat state. Next, we establish that first position. We ask the athlete to imagine themselves standing in the tunnel, wherever it may be, before a massive match. Feeling the nervous energy in the stomach, hearing the thunderous roar of the crowd through the concrete walls, and noticing exactly where they hold their tension. Be it in their shoulders, their jaw, maybe it is in their chest, wherever it may be. We have them acknowledge the anxiety without trying to fight it. Then we introduce the Imagine Mental. So we can ask the athlete to imagine an idol or an experienced leader standing right next to them in that tunnel. It could well be a Jordan Henderson, a Danny Welbeck. It could even be an Alonso or a mentor from their early career who embodied complete, unshakable authority. In hypnosis, the athlete visualizes the mentor turning to them, looking them right in the eyes and delivering a message of absolute calm, clarity, and direction. The mentor tells the young player exactly what they need to hear in that moment. This will be unique to that player, but it could be something along the lines of trust your preparation. The pitch is the exact same size it is when you were 10 years old. Focus on your first 3 touches. Keep your eyes up. Execute. You can do this. Now, here's where that real shift happens. The perceptual shift into the second position. We guide the athlete to step out of their own body and step directly into the mind and the physical frame of that mentor figure. Using what we call the as if frame, instructing them to act as if they are that mentor. They are no longer themselves. They have become that mentor. The athletes immediately adjust their physical posture in the chair. They drop their shoulders. They open their chest. They feel what it is like to have a slow, steady heart rate inside a noisy stadium. From inside that second position, looking through the mentor's eyes, the athlete looks back at that younger first position self standing in that tunnel. And instead of feeling panic, they view that younger self with total calm, compassion, and absolute authority. They realize that the chaos outside the tunnel isn't a threat. It's just another environment operating. What happens inside the body during the shift is actually quite remarkable. Your autonomic nervous system settles down. Your heart rate drops, as does your adrenaline output, your peripheral vision, which somewhat narrows into a more kind of version of tunnel vision when you're panicked. It widens back out again, so you can actually see the tactical options. You can see the spaces again on the pitch, and the overconscious overthinking that causes muscle freeze gets replaced by the automated confident motor flow of an experienced professional. This leads me into the single most mind-blowing moment in hypnotherapy, and really the core message of this whole episode. After an athlete comes out of hypnosis, having experienced that deeply powerful conversation with their mentor and having felt that profound physical shift in their composure, I like to ask them one simple direct question. When you were in that moment and Jordan Henderson or Danny Welbeck looked you in the eye and gave you that brilliant piece of advice, who wrote that script? Just pause and think about that for a second. In this situation, there wasn't actually a Jordan Henderson sitting in the therapy room. There was no legend standing in the corner whispering in their ear. Every single word of wisdom, every tactical insight, every feeling of calm authority, every deep breath that was generated was 100% by the athlete's own brain. In cognitive behavioural hypnotherapy, we know that hypnosis is an active, self-directive cognitive skill. It isn't something done to you. It's a skill you execute yourself. When a young player or a corporate leader suffers from imposter syndrome, their conscious mind builds a mental wall. You simply tell them, you are not competent. You are wise. If you simply tell them, you are competent, you are wise, you are in control, the analytical brain pushes back and says, no, I'm not. I'm young, I'm inexperienced, I haven't earned the right to feel that way, I'm not there yet. The imagined mentor acts as almost like a Trojan horse, a cognitive Trojan horse, if you will, because their conscious mind doesn't believe they're allowed to own their composure yet. They're projecting it into an idol that allows them to step past their own internal critic. They attribute the calm authority to the mentor, which gives their brain permission to create the exact physical and mental state of leadership within themselves. This realization creates a permanent shift in what psychologists call your locus of control. You move away from an external locus of control, thinking, I can only play well if a senior veteran like Welbeck and Henderson is standing next to me to keep me calm. And you build a switch to a bulletproof internal locus of control. The composure I saw on my idol was simply a mirror reflecting the strength and tactical clarity I already possess inside my own neural architecture. This is precisely why signings of Welbeck and Henderson are so brilliant for Chelsea, and why my heart take of them being title dark horses carries real psychological weight. I'm not saying you should go out right now to the bookies and place a bet on them, What I'm saying is that by giving these young players a real-world daily model of elite composure to mirror, Alonso, the Chelsea manager, is fast-tracking their ability to step into the perspective of a leader. And the moment those young players realize they can access that composure internally within themselves, their development will skyrocket. That directly increases their performance on the pitch, massively protects the club's financial investments and improves them, and fundamentally strengthens Chelsea's entire business model. They aren't just buying players. They are buying psychological catalysts that turn a high-potential squad into genuine title contenders. Now let's bring this off the pitch and right into your daily work life. You might not be walking out to Stamford Bridge or playing in the Premier League. Chances are you're not doing that, but if you do run a business, if you do manage a team, or you're pitching to stakeholders, or you're simply going about cleaning the toilets, whatever you may be doing, you deal with these exact same mental hurdles wherever you are in your daily life. Pundits in the corporate world do the exact same thing. They tell struggling companies to hire veteran board members, bring in experience, steady the ship, assume leadership rods off by osmosis. But just like Welbeck and Henderson at Chelsea, those external advisors are only useful if your own team learns how to internalize their strategic framework. If your team remains passive, it relies on that consultant or whoever they bring in with that experience to fix everything, your organizational capability will never grow. If you don't learn this skill, if you fall into something of a validation trap, delay the big critical decisions because you're waiting for that external expert or a senior colleague to validate your ideas, you're leaving your team to be stuck in limbo. You experience executive imposter syndrome, perhaps, where you step into a high-stakes board meeting and an internal voice whispers, "You aren't qualified to lead this team through a crisis." To help you access your own internal authority when the pressure spikes, here's a very short, practical 3-step internal mental protocol, which you can use before any high-stakes presentation, negotiation, or leadership challenge. And something that will benefit you if you practice this day in, day out, before this challenge happens. First, I want you to choose your mentor and ask yourself a key question. So before you step into a tough situation, pick a leader, someone from sport, business, or your past who embodies the exact quality you need. If you need unshakable composure, maybe it's someone that you can think of like a Jordan Henderson, some absolute calm under fire. Ask yourself, if they were walking into this room right now, how would they stand? How would they breathe? What would their tone of voice sound like? Next, I want you to take on their posture, physically adopt how they would stand. Unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, roll back slightly to open up your chest. Take a slow 4-second inhale, followed by a steady, deep 6-second exhale to trigger your parasympathetic nervous system by the vagus nerve, dropping your heart rate in real time. You can practice this before the situation, whatever it may be, actually occur. Living this through in your own imagination. Look at the room through their eyes. From their perspective, the tough presentation or tense corporate meeting isn't a threat to your personal worth. It's a tactical puzzle to solve calmly. Next, as you feel your body settle into composure, remind yourself of the grounding truth. This calm perspective is being built 100% by you. You aren't faking it. You aren't pretending to be someone else. You aren't relying on a crutch or anyone else to support you. You're using an imagined mentor as a key to unlock the composure, resilience, and strategic wisdom you already hold inside yourself. Step in, step up, and lead. You can do this. The leaders we look up to in sport, in business, and in life aren't holding secret knowledge that we lack. They are simply mirrors reflecting the composure, resilience, and clarity we haven't given ourselves permission to own yet. Your mind is the most valuable piece of performance gear you possess, and learning to master your internal perspective is a skill you can train every single day. If imposter syndrome or performance anxiety is creating friction in your career or your leadership style, it's simply a signal to adjust your own mental strategy. To discuss building a custom state management protocol tailored to your own specific goals, please visit my website at www.grantingprogress.com or drop me a direct email at hello@grantingprogress.com. Thank you for listening to episode 5 of Sport Rewired. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a few moments right now to leave a review. Please hit subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Substack, or YouTube, wherever you may be listening. Your review is the absolute best way to help the algorithms recommend Sport Rewired to new listeners across the globe. Feel free to leave a note in your review as well. Let me know what sports debate or psychological topic you want me to break down next week. I'm Grant Wyeth. This has been Sport Rewired. Focus on the process, manage your baseline, and I'll see you on the next one.